can hear me? Good. Thanks for that. Yeah, so Jim Mint, welcome. So the news, if you haven't heard, Trump was just found guilty on all 34 counts in this hush money trial. This happened just a couple of hours ago, and I got to tell you, I was not expecting that at all. I was actually on another feed with a buddy of mine who's much more steeped in the politics than I am, because I had some questions and he was able to kind of help me understand some of the things. Yes, please like and subscribe. So TWR Cat Dog VR. I'm assuming dog lover. Thank you for subscribing. Um, yeah, what does this mean for America? Well, that's just it. That's part of what we were trying to figure out, because there are a lot of ways that this can go. The person the person who I was talking to, if you ever go back and look at that show, they're not, they are staunchly anti-Trump. So it was hard to get straight answers from them because they were so focused on sort of celebrating. And my question was, I want to know what's going on here, because I don't look at the issues the way that person does. But Trump was found guilty. Now, as far as next steps, Trump being found guilty, yeah, that happened. Trump remaining guilty, well, we have to see. He can appeal this. He probably will appeal this. And we're going to have to see how long the appeal takes. But even after that, let's assume that Trump makes an appeal and that doesn't work and the conviction stands. Well, that doesn't mean that he's going to necessarily do time. It does mean that he can do time, but there's a range on this. This could be considered essentially something that's not going to rise to the level of needing him to spend time in jail. This could be something that requires him to spend like 4 years in jail. We don't know how that's gonna go. And yeah, I know there are going to be a lot of comments on this, so I'll just say this up front, and then I'll kind of come to some comments. I think there will probably be more comments than anything else. There are a couple of things that we have to keep in mind here. If Trump is convicted as a felon, he can actually still run for president. Now, that doesn't mean that he will remain the Republican nominee. And it's one thing to be convicted and not in jail. It's another thing if he actually goes to jail. That opens up a lot of other possibilities. Yes, he can still be elected and even run. So there are still a lot of moving parts to this. But the first domino has definitely fallen, and now we've got to play this out and see how the other dominoes fall. What I will say is, when I saw the conviction, I was shocked, because I didn't think that this was ever going to get this far. However, I did learn something. Right. Normally, this whole issue, the falsified business records, would be a misdemeanor. Normally, it would be a misdemeanor. Because Trump was running for office, this is being treated as a federal crime. So that's how this rose, because you would have expected the statute of limitations to have run out. Whole lot of things. So they haven't clearly communicated that that's essentially how they got around statute of limitations, and how they're saying that this is a crime that they can prosecute now, and that this is something that Trump can actually do time for. That said, I mean, to be fair, let's be very fair as we get into this conversation. So, if I'm being very fair, did Trump sleep with Stormy Daniels? Yeah, I think that happened. Did he pay her to keep quiet? Yeah, I think that happened. Did he cook the books to do so? Yeah, but that's not really the issue. The issue is that supposed to be prosecuted at this federal level, or is that normally a misdemeanor? And that's where it gets very weird because if this wasn't a federal crime, there would be no discussion of time. This would be literally a misdemeanor, slap on the wrist, you go on about your day, and that's not what's happening here. So you have to start looking at the sequence of events that led to this. And I'll admit, if I was Trump, I would have never handled Stormy Daniels the way he did. It's, don't leave money trails. I wouldn't cheat on my wife, but if I was, I wouldn't pay out cash, with money trails that people can follow. You give her a piece of jewelry, you tell her the jewelry shop that she can go cash it in at, and you're done, and nobody's looking at that, and it's easy. So the paper trail, well, that's basically what's gotten them into this trouble, but it has happened, and now we have to deal with the aftermath. I do think that this is a witch hunt. I don't know anyone who doesn't believe that, but if you leave yourself vulnerable, okay, you gotta wonder when the people are going to come after you who are your enemies. And Trump has a political rival who's powerful, so I understand all the moving parts. What I don't understand is where things are going, and that's what I want to see. And I want to know what this does for the election, because there have been questions that people are asking now, which is, how does all of this impact the 2024 election? This is my thought. There are people who love Trump, and they're going to continue to love Trump, and this isn't going to take any of those voters away. There are people who hate Trump, and they're going to continue to hate Trump. So neither of those camps are really going to move. Doesn't matter what, how this case unfolds. Those groups of people are set. It's that group of people in the middle that's the question mark. People who, are kind of split 50-50 on Trump and Biden, and, mainly live in the swing states, and we're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Well, that's what this really comes down to. That's where I think that this could, it's those on the fence who will decide. And that's where I think that this could hurt Trump a bit, because Biden will be able to say that Trump's a convicted felon. And I don't think a lot of the people on the fence are going to make a decision based on that. But I do think that might move a tiny number of them to say, okay, I don't want to deal with Trump. So if you had this group of people who was on the fence, they were going to go half and half, well, now you've just taken a little group of them out, and they might go Biden, and so now you have less of a group to go half and half. I don't know that that's the case, but I've seen governor races where those things have happened. I mean, I lived in Texas when Ann Richards was the first female governor elected in Texas. It wasn't that she won, it was that the guy she was running against did so many boneheaded things that he finally lost his supporters. So if you can position someone as kind of as public enemy number one, then you can cost them some votes. And that feels like what this whole thing has been designed to do. But let me come to some comments, because I can easily see myself getting behind on comments from this. So let me scroll back. Okay. The Trump verdict is crazy. I agree. Now that's such a, he committed a crime. Was it a serious crime? That's really debatable. But I think he paid Stormy Daniels to shut up. That's normally not a serious crime, but it's a serious crime this time. I saw a comment about how the jury was given weird instructions on voting for some charges and not others. That's true, but that doesn't really mean anything to me, because he was found guilty on all 34 counts. If he was found guilty on like half the counts, then I would start wondering whether some jurors kind of felt one way and others felt another. But all 34 counts, that tells me that the juror said, okay, we're checking the box. We don't see any way out of this. Doesn't mean he can't appeal. As we start to get into some of the issues around kind of the case and how it's been brought about, and how a lot of people today can't really explain what he's really being charged with that rises to the level of a federal offense. Well, like I can understand a lot of issues with how the case is handled and how an appeal might happen. But yeah, that's just gonna be crazy. Um, oh, Donna James also subbed, so thank you for your sub, Donna. What's this mean for America, Dolphin? That's what we have to figure out. Trump may not go to jail. I was saying in an earlier show, I don't think he's going to jail. But I have to admit, I didn't think that he was going to be found guilty. So it's a little bit of a weird space to be in today where you have to wonder, would they send him to jail for this? I don't know. If you asked me yesterday, I would have said no way on earth. Today I got to say I don't know because things have changed. Things did not shake out the way I thought. So that's a real consideration to make, and we're going to have to see if Trump cannot run for president. This is just my thought. I think that would actually hurt Biden more than Biden realizes. If you look at the election today, right now the election, I don't care what the polls say because the polls are wrong. The polls have not been reliable. So people who are just relying, they're screaming about the poll numbers. So what? Polls were wrong in 2016. Polls were misleading in 2020. So why am I going to trust the polls now? That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that the election today is very close. And I think that if you go to the swing states today, you're going to have to really count ballots to make sure you know who won, because it can come down to those razor thin margins. But that's because there are people who love Trump and they're voting for him no matter what, and there are people who hate Trump and they're voting for Biden. And it's not that they really love Biden, it's that they hate Trump. Now, if Trump wasn't the nominee, just making this up, if RFK Jr. was the nominee, well, all of a sudden there's some people who would have voted for Biden if Trump was in, but now they don't have the same reason to vote for Biden anymore. There are a lot of Biden supporters who don't really seem to have a lot of support for him. They just don't like Trump and they're not going to vote for Trump. If RFK Jr.'s in the Republican seat, some of those voters could easily start to swing. And that's important because if the vote and the election is kind of razor thin right now, well, if Biden loses that little stronghold he has of people who are anti-Trump, he has no chance of winning. That's my take. Now, we have to see how this all plays out. I don't know that that's going to be what plays out, but I could see that sequence of events. And this witch hunt could end up being exactly the opposite in terms of the result of what they were looking for. Trump guilty, thumbs up from Jonathan. He was found guilty. That is a fact. U.S. is officially a banana republic. Now that's tricky. Should this case have gone this far? The case going this far feels weird. It feels like it's a very weird kind of loophole almost. It feels like they've had to go through to get the case to where it is today. But I have to admit, I do think that Trump slept with Stormy Daniels. I do think that he paid her. I do think that he cooked the books to do so. So he committed a crime. Should he have been prosecuted to this level for it? That's kind of a different thing. But I can't say that he didn't commit a crime. I got to be fair about that. He did something. Just should this have been the outcome? That's kind of hard to say. I got a guy who could shed more light on this. Okay. Can you please sell me more myths? I need the same myth you sold me last night. Who is this? Broke Boy Adventures. Wait, are you the guy who was arguing with me about RFK Jr.? If you're if you're saying I'm selling myths, that's fine. What myths am I selling you? Okay, that's a weird name. I'm not gonna mention it. Hello to you. I'll call you Slitter. Night Vision engaged. Yo, the comments are the best. Yeah, the comments are great. He can still be elected even and run. I agree. I think unless he goes to jail, I don't think this is going to stop him from being the Republican nominee, and I don't think it's going to. I don't know that he's going to win. I think the election is really close right now. It's going to be, yeah, it's just going to be weird. We have to see. You see, free Trump. You should hear what the judge said. In which regard? I mean, the judge has said a lot of things. This has been a weird case. Now I've looked up Juan Merchan. Juan Merchan's got he's got a top-notch history. He was an 88. He's risen up the ranks, and he knows what he's doing. The whole gag order thing, and then it's like putting a gag order on you, Trump, because we don't want you bashing the jury or anyone who's working the case, and then extending that to family. It's like, okay, I get it. I mean, Trump was talking about Merchan's daughter and saying that she was using this to boost her company, and basically profit off of the fact that her dad was presiding over the case. Now, I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's false. But I can understand Merchan saying, look, you're trying to make me look like I'm biased. I don't appreciate that, so cut that stuff out. I don't fault Merchan for doing that. But if I'm the defense and I'm looking for grounds for appeal, Merchan's impartiality is something I'm going to look at for sure. Like, can we say he was impartial? Maybe, maybe not. Am I going to attack it? You better believe it. So we're going to have to see what the appeals look like. Night Vision Engaged says, you do realize that this well, you said circus trail. I'm assuming you mean circus trial, has solidified Trump's reelection. I don't think it's solidified Trump's reelection at all. I think that the people who are Trump supporters are even more firmly entrenched. The people who are Trump haters are even more firmly entrenched. I don't think it's changed anything about that. There's a group of people in the middle. And I don't think that the group of people in the middle are going to say, oh, well, there was a witch hunt, I'm going to support him now. I don't think that's not what I've seen people do. People generally don't like drama and conflict. So you bring up a lot of conflict, and that can kind of turn people off. I don't know that this is going to cost him a lot of voters, but people who are on the fence, I don't see this winning people who are on the fence. You win people who are on the fence by telling them about something they want, not some drama that they have to deal with. The dramas usually turn them away. That's what I've seen in other elections. Free Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. The feds didn't pick up the charges. Yeah, that is true. I mean, that goes back to the whole. This case is very weird. Looking at the charges, you could kind of ask the question, why are we even dealing with this case in the first place? But we did. And now we're here, and now we got to deal with it. And now he's been found guilty, and we got to deal with that. This was a New York State case. There was this whole question about whether the New York governor could pardon Trump for this. And like somebody was asking that. But then the next question was, well, I mean, look at who the New York governor is. Why would she pardon Trump? And I agree with that. Like, I don't see it happen. I just don't see that happening. Could it happen? Yes. Will it happen? I doubt it. Well, the question right now is, as we look at 2024, who do we think the candidates are going to be? Biden's going to be the Democratic candidate. I still think that Trump is going to be the Republican candidate. I don't think that he's going to lose his ability to run. Being convicted, being a felon won't cost him his ability to run. But I got to look at what happened. What if he's in jail before the Republican National Convention? What does that mean for who gets the nomination? That I don't know, because I don't know. There's a lot of mess associated with that. But I don't think we can say for sure, based on what happened tonight, that Trump will be the Republican nominee. I think he's still the most likely one to get it, but this just created an opportunity for someone else to potentially take it. We have to see how that goes. appeal, makes this go away. He gets no jail time, makes all this go away. But those aren't guarantees. Trump could go to jail for this. I don't think he will, but I've got to admit, who's to say now? There's been so much crazy stuff going on. You can't say. Trump 2024. I'm the example of a good man. I made out. You came out of the closet, and I'm happy. What? Oh goodness. Trolls. It's those on the fence who will decide. Yes, it is those on the fence who will decide. It wasn't a crime that he paid her to shush. It was where the money came from. You guys got to learn the facts. He will appeal and won't see punishment until he's president. So actually, that's not entirely true. Okay. Paying her to shush, yeah, that's okay. Paying somebody off to keep quiet, it's not a crime. Cooking the books because you took some money out, yeah, that's a crime, but that's a misdemeanor. Apparently, the issue here that blew this whole thing up, the whole thing this hangs on, is the fact that he was running for president. So it's not just that he cooked the books. My understanding of the way they're approaching this is it's a federal crime because he was running for federal office and was, essentially trying to trick people about his history. So that's like this convoluted path they took to say, this is how we get you. You were trying to run for president when you committed this crime. So yes, it is a federal crime. If he wasn't running for president, this wouldn't have even made the news. This would have just been, straighten this out, misdemeanor, fine, goes away. But it wasn't. He was running for president. And that gave them the opportunity to make this a federal case, and that's what we're dealing with now. No way in hell he's going to jail. That would start a civil war. Well, I don't think it's going to start a civil war, but I get your point. I don't think he's going to. These are the things that I've heard, and this is what I don't know. There's one scenario, which is if you look at the way this case works out, if you look at the way sentencing works out, giving him no time would make perfect sense. I mean, that would make perfect sense. This isn't the type of crime that usually lands anyone in jail, so you can sentence that way. That's one extreme. The other extreme is he could get like 4 years per count, but the 4 years would all run concurrent. So it would be a maximum of 4 years in jail. That's the other extreme. Now, the one thing I heard, and I was leaning towards 0, 0, 0, 0 the whole way. But I was looking at an analyst who said that there's a precedent where, I don't remember the person's name, somebody did something similar, and they got 3 months in jail. And the analyst was saying, if Merchan follows precedent, Trump can end up getting 3 months since that other guy got 3 months. And that was what surprised me, is I didn't realize there was a precedent for this. I don't know how this goes. If somebody said, well, he's getting 3 months because the last person who did this got 3 months, that's hard to argue against. It's not a lot of time, but 3 months, that's 3 critical months that would happen during the campaign. I mean, his sentencing, Trump's sentencing is supposed to happen like right after the first presidential debate. I think the first debate between Biden and Trump is the end of June. And Trump's sentencing is like early July. So 3 months, that means Trump's not available for the second debate. 3 months, he'd be back out before the election. But how does that, how would all of that work? If I'm the Republican Party, what am I doing there? Am I trusting that Trump can come out of jail more popular than he was when he went in jail? That's risky. I can see people in the Republican Party getting nervous about that. This becomes a very messy thing if he goes to jail. We're talking about a past president being in jail. That's going to tick people off. especially when people are saying that this doesn't even feel like it's that significant a case. It's a witch hunt. Yeah, that's going to be a disaster. But I don't know that that's going to happen, but that could happen. Um, Trump 2024, indubitably, he knows. He was bashing the jury. And yeah, he was, and that's why he got that gag order. And that's Trump's style. But at the same time, this is a jury. You can't bash a jury when you're on trial and you're a powerful person, because that could be seen as tampering. So I get that. You can't let him. I wouldn't want to be on a jury trying a president for something. It's like that guy's got power. I don't want to have to worry about what that guy might do to me if I think he's guilty. That would influence me. And if they're out there and they're bashing you and they're showing you that they can like drag your name through the mud, yeah. They had to drop a couple of jurors because they were all stressed out about this. I get it. You don't want to put yourself in a bad spot with a potential president of the United States. Army Airborne, justice has been served. Tell me why you say that, Army Airborne. Trump was found guilty. He committed a crime. He was found guilty of the crime. But justice is the tricky word here. Was this justice? Because I could argue, okay, if we've known about this for years and we're waiting until an election to bring it up, is this justice? Or is this just political grandstanding? Like I'm trying to maneuver to win the election, and I need my rival to look bad. That's not justice. That's opportunity. That's a little bit different. Indubitably, all right. So Thread loves indubitably. You're like Vizzini in The Princess Bride, who's always got that one phrase he loves to say. Inconceivable. Yours is indubitably. Army Airborne, Trump, Putin, 2024. Funny, I understand. History will not be kind to Donald Trump. Maybe not. Let's face it, what happens in these next few months is going to determine what history has to say about Donald Trump. If Donald Trump goes to jail, no. History will be very unkind to Donald Trump if he goes to jail. He'll be the first president to be convicted and locked up. Yeah, that would be his legacy, and that's not, I wouldn't want to be remembered as the first president to go to prison. If he's exonerated through appeal, or if he's convicted, doesn't get any time, and wins re-election, well, I think that history is going to look favorably on him as somebody who overcame the odds. I don't know which way this is going to go, but I could see history writing this one or two ways. It really kind of depends on the outcome. What happens in the next couple of months, that's going to be how we find out what history has to say about him. There are people in the middle. Let me see. Slayer View, Trump got owned. He's not in a good spot right now, but he's still got moves. He can appeal. He may not get time. There are a lot of things that are going on. He will keep his delegates even if in jail. Inmate 1, the unexpected COVID-19 release. Okay. So let's. What if he gets 4 years? He's not going to get to run. He's out. If he gets 3 months, I don't know how that works. Maybe he does. I mean, he'd be able to run. If he gets no time, sure. But if he gets 3 months, I don't know what that does. If I'm the Republican National, if I'm the GOP, and I'm sitting there, I'm saying, "Ooh, do I nominate this guy?" Knowing that he can't campaign for several months at the end of the race, that makes me nervous. That could make me very nervous. It doesn't mean that they would, walk away from him, but I got to believe that they're sitting back strategizing that right now. Let me see. He's appealing it. Dano, guilty. Yeah, okay. I know Dano is going to be hardcore on that train. Guilty all day. Dano's the guy I was talking to in the previous stream. Coney Island styling. Coney Island styling on him. Like the name. Just okay. You were expecting a goofy result. Okay. Oh, and yeah. So click like and subscribe, everybody, if you are interested in more of my pop-up lives. Trump 2024, July 11th. Yeah, July 11th is when that's the sentencing. That's going to be huge. In Trump we trust. He will win. Trump 2024 for America. The judge needs to go back to law school. I'm not knocking Judge Merchan. Judge Merchan is a smart guy. If you look at his resume, that guy has done a lot of impressive stuff. They didn't just get a random judge to try this case. They got a heavy hitter. Actually, don't fault him for, that's a tough case, and he doesn't want to let Trump or the defense or the prosecution overshadow what he's trying to do, which is make sure that, it's a fair trial. Fair is I know that's kind of funny because you can argue, why is this a case in the first place? But as far as once it became a case, I feel like he stepped in and, he laid down the law. He laid down the expectations. That's all I can expect. If he was afraid to try the case, then he'd be the wrong judge for it. Trump finally won the popular vote today. Maybe. But it just goes back to, Trump's ahead in the polls, but I don't believe in the polls because the polls are wrong. Like I said, as I've said before, polls said that Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, and it was wrong. Said that Biden was going to win by a large margin in 2020, and that was wrong. The polls aren't that accurate. They give us some insight into what people are saying, but the polls don't mean that much. Let me see. How's that funny, Skeeter? Y'all weird if you like what's going on today. See, that's what you got to remember. That's Elite Urban Films. What you got to remember is half of voters are happy today, and half of voters are furious today. And it really just depends on what side you're on. People always forget. There are people who love Trump. There are people who hate Trump. And usually each side can't really see the other side's point of view. But we got to remember that voters are pretty evenly split on this. Last election was very close. It came down to tens of thousands of votes here, 10,000 votes there. Donald Trump would be president right now if it were just a couple of votes that swung one way or the other in like Atlanta and Philadelphia. Y'all enjoy walking out the grocery store with 3 bags of food for $100. Inflation and the economy. That is an issue. That's one of Biden's weaknesses. The economy hurts Biden, and the open borders hurt Biden from a policy standpoint. But let me see. Vote for Trump. They're not going to give him any actual time, in my opinion. Too much of a precedent is set by that, and then the next thing you know, Obama, Joe Biden, Carter, all getting thrown in the slam or not bill. Okay, so here's my question for you real sports bet picks, because you're saying they're not giving him any actual time. And if you asked me whether he was going to be found guilty yesterday, I would have said no. I actually did a video about this a few weeks ago where I said, this case isn't going to go anywhere. I didn't believe it could. I was surprised today to find out they found him guilty. So now I'm not sure what's going to happen. Will they give him time? I don't know. But I know they can give him 0 time. They can give him 4 years. And there was an analyst who was on a show and said that there was a precedent of like 3 months for someone else. So we have to see. I'm just not sure what's going to happen here. Buy Bitcoin. Okay. The Trump hate currency is drying up. They spent it all on this and it won't work. I don't know. I think that the people who hate Trump are going to continue to hate Trump. The people who love Trump are going to continue to love Trump. I don't know how much this really impacts the people in the middle. If Trump is your martyr, fine. That's never going to change. If Trump is the villain in the story, that's never going to change. But if you're in the middle, well, what happened to the people who are in the middle today? I don't know why they'll say, "Oh, you're persecuting him. I'm going to vote for him." I don't. That's just not what I've seen voters do. Um, Generally, they want to get away from drama. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, that's kind of the case. Let me see. Buy gold and silver. No real American is shocked by the verdicts, just how fast the judgments were rendered. Well, that's not true. Yeah, that's not true at all. There are a lot of Americans who were shocked by the verdict. Look at the chat. I would say, yeah, about half of voters are shocked by this verdict. There are a ton of podcasters who came out with shows today, including me, because we were shocked by this verdict. Um, the real question now is, what's the aftermath? Who, you know, who can predict what's going to happen in the next couple of months? The sentencing is July the 11th. Appeals are going to happen, and we have to see what happens with the appeals. But right now, there's a lot that's up for grabs. It's anybody's guess as to what's actually going to happen. And today, I've got to look at this in a very different light than I've been looking at it in for the past several days, because he got convicted. You know, I got somebody passing me a note. All right. Let me see. So, Elite Urban Films will vote for Trump. Um, that's not true at all. So many Biden voters will. Oh, okay. That's not true at all. So many Biden voters will vote for Trump. So I'll tell you, Elite Urban Films, I don't agree with that. But it goes to, I get why you're saying that. Trump supporters have strong convictions for Trump. They believe in Trump. They think everybody should vote for Trump. And it's hard for them to fathom that some people don't want to vote for Trump. But here's the fact. A lot of the people who are in the Biden camp, they're not Biden supporters so much as they don't like Trump. This gave them another reason to not like Trump. They will literally say, see, he's convicted. They're not going to say he's being persecuted, we have to vote for him. People who hate Trump have one more reason to hate Trump today. People who love Trump have one more reason to love Trump today. Today is not about the people who've already decided. Today is about the people who are in the middle. And I don't know that today won voters over for Trump. I don't know that it cost him many, but I think that what happens in these next few months will. If he goes to jail, I think that's going to cost him a lot. If he doesn't go to jail, then I think that's a very different story. And I just can't say what's going to happen today because I never thought he was going to get convicted in the first place. Where are the protests supporting Don? Yeah, well, I mean, protests, it's what we're seeing online. Nobody's going to go stand at a picket line. It's people who are online expressing their point of view on these shows because people don't believe in what just happened. It's going to be another 4 years of clowns like, oh man, spam me guilty as if it matters at all when Trump is back in office. Yeah, today's guilty verdict doesn't seal Trump's fate. It doesn't secure him victory. It's just one domino, and there's a progression of dominoes that have to fall. But this, everybody recognizes this is the start of something. We have to see which way the dominoes fall. But yeah, this could end up really hurting him or really helping him. We're just going to have to go. A vote for Don is a vote for Putin, who also, yeah, okay. Yeah. Some people you can read in the chat and you can see they have strong opinions one way or the other. So that's just part of it. Trump has my vote now. Okay, Betty, weren't you a Trump? It sounded like you were a Trump supporter when you came into the chat. So are you a convert, or did this just make you more resolved in supporting Trump? Inmate is hoping to get. Okay. I'm going to leave that to you two. I will never heal with MAGA. you will never heal with MAGA. What specifically are you healing from, Dion? I don't know if you're talking about that from a financial standpoint or something else. One Who Cares, good evening to all in the chat. One Who Cares, welcome back. Thank you for joining back in. And yeah, everybody click like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, because this is going to be the story all over the internet for the next week or two, because how can it not be? This is like the biggest story there is. And everybody's going to be trying to figure out what the next steps are. It was interesting. Trump has already issued a fundraising initiative. So I'm assuming he had 2 emails ready to go as soon as the sentence came out. An email that, if he won, that was going out. An email that if he lost was going out. And when he got convicted, that email went out with, like, we need the fundraising drive because we've got to fight this. But it was just like it felt kind of weird. I get that you already have the emails loaded, but it felt weird to send it out so fast, because it just said, okay, you've been thinking about this for a while, which makes sense. But I would have probably taken a little time, give people a chance to process before you're acknowledging that, yeah, okay, I got convicted, now let's start trying to fight. I would have probably handled that a little bit differently, because people need a day to kind of process this before they really start thinking about it. However, I did hear someone say that they went to the website to try to make a donation, and there were so many people at the website that they couldn't get in, like it was overloaded. I don't know if that's true or not. That was just what somebody was posting in a comment section, so maybe it's true, maybe not. However, some of the things that come to mind, like, real talk. Number one, does anybody think that Trump didn't sleep with Stormy Daniels? But number two, does anybody think that this isn't a witch hunt? I mean, that's like the questions. Yeah, I think he slept with her, but I also think this is kind of a witch hunt. Now, I get it. I said in other streams, I think that when Trump didn't facilitate the peaceful transition of power, I think that the day he decided not to, a lot of people said, okay, you just became my enemy and I'm going to come get you. And I get the timing. If this is my political rival and I want to hurt him, this is when I want all sorts of charges going up against him. Right in the middle of his campaigning. I want to interfere with his campaigning as much as possible. I think that's brilliant timing. I don't fault anybody for that. Doesn't change the fact, though, that it's a witch hunt. And that, how you approach the PR for that is going to be important. And that's why this could end up biting Biden in the butt, because if Trump doesn't go to jail, now he can present himself as as being persecuted. And there's a story around persecution that people can get their heads around. He goes to jail, I think he loses all that goodwill. But if he doesn't go to jail, that's different. So we're going to have to see how this works. I don't think that the people who are in the middle have made it. I don't think most of them have made a decision yet. They're waiting to see how things shake out. I do think there are going to be a few who say, oh, I just don't want to deal with the drama, just because that's what I've seen in the past. But I think for the most part, most of the middle voters are still undecided and they're just waiting to see. But that's going to be a very important thing to watch in the next couple of months. I think if you look at the polls tomorrow, I bet Trump's popularity is going to spike. But that's going to be because it's going to be very easy to find Trump supporters who are willing to express their support when they're being polled. That's not because it reflects what's actually happening. The Biden supporters aren't going to be any more interested in doing a poll tomorrow than they are today. Trump supporters will, and that will kind of drive up his numbers in the polls. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to see what, if I hear polling numbers say, oh, Trump is up huge tomorrow, I'm going to say, yeah, I know why. Doesn't mean anything, but okay, it is what it is. Let me see. Lucas Drennan. Even with Trump's conviction, I think Biden's action on Gaza will hurt his re-election chances unless he quickly shifts his position. I hear what you're saying, but here's my thought. This is just based on, I ask a lot of questions. I get a lot of feedback from viewers. Gaza is not really a voting issue. I mean, people kind of care about Gaza, a little bit. Not really. They kind of care about Ukraine, but only a little bit. What people care about, when people talk about like Ukraine, what they talk about is we're sending money overseas to help foreign countries when people are struggling here. People care about that. Like, are you thinking America first? Gaza, I haven't heard the narrative that dollars are going to Gaza that should be spent on Americans. We are sending dollars to Gaza, but that's not the narrative about Gaza. So I don't think that Gaza is really going to drive a lot of voters one way or the other. Biden's weaknesses are open borders and the economy. Those are the things that are going to cost Biden votes, which is funny because if he just spun it differently, he could get a different narrative. But his PR, I just don't think his PR team is very strong. Those are the things that are going to, American issues are what's going to drive votes and what's going to win you or lose you votes. So we'll see. We'll see. Southern Comfort. Welcome to the Banana Republic. Trump 2024. Too big to rig. Down with Joe and his posse. A lot in that. All right. This election is a mess. It is a mess. It's a very convoluted set of events that brought us to where we are today. And I don't know where things are going to go. Now, as far as too big to rig, look, I don't think that 2020 was rigged. I know that some people are, there are people who will never believe that 2020 was legit. I'm one of the people who's never going to believe it was rigged. Just Chris Krebs was the head of cybersecurity. Lifelong Republican, voted for Trump twice. And he said in no uncertain terms, it was the most secure election in history. If you look at some of his interviews, he talked about the testing they did to confirm that the Dominion machines weren't rigged, all of this stuff that they did. It's like, if you're going to say it was rigged, you gotta bring some evidence, some significant evidence to overcome the significant statements that were made about how they tested to make sure nothing was funny. But I know that some people will never believe that it was legit. Just got to agree to disagree on that. Josh H. It is a witch hunt. One who cares. Exactly. Yeah, everybody, I don't think anybody thinks that the timing of this wasn't convenient, wasn't pre-planned. That it is what it is. They just made it more of a deal. This alone got them 3 million more votes. I understand why you're saying that. I just don't think that's the case. I don't think this isn't going to affect those middle voters. Not this. The outcome, the aftermath of this will, but the verdict today, no. Gaza reminds me of what Americans did to the Native Americans, or what America did to the Native Americans. Well, that's two different. Okay, that's weird. I guess I need to understand where you're coming from there. We're not occupying Gaza, so I don't necessarily understand what you mean. Yeah, I don't understand where you're going with that. So I would say I need more detail on what you mean there. Michigan had 30,000 uncommitted votes. I got you on the American issues, though. Yeah, that's just America is voting on American issues. And it's not even all the American issues. Like, some people think that Roe v. Wade is going to be a big voting issue. I don't. I asked people about it. It's very funny because when I run polls on some of my videos, it's easy for me to see what people really care about. If they don't care about something, they don't comment on it. I did a Roe v. Wade, people could care less. If I talk the economy, if I talk about the borders, people care about those things. Um, if you talk about the missteps, I can talk about Trump missteps, I can talk about Biden missteps. People care about those things. But once you get outside the United States, people really don't care. That's not going to be, um, it's not going to be something that really impacts the way they vote. No proof it was rigged. I haven't seen definitive proof that it was. I've seen people make hypotheses. I've seen like grainy videos of people stuffing this and that, but well, I'll just keep it simple. If there was definitive evidence that it was rigged, I don't think Trump would sit on that. Trump would have brought that evidence to light the second he had it because he'd be president. So if there's definitive evidence, why isn't Trump using it? Why didn't Trump use it to secure a presidency that was stolen from him? I just keep it simple with something like that. Trump 2024 for prison. Okay, that's Dano is you know where Dano's coming from with all of his comments. Trump donation site crashed because of all the donations. Yeah, I heard that. I didn't go check it out, but I have heard that. Okay, so now I'm getting another person saying that it crashed. Trump is so broke he is selling his jets. Trump's not broke. Look, Trump's worth what, like roughly $3 billion. I don't know where it is with all the stuff that he's paid out so far, but he's worth like $3 billion. Truth Social, he can't sell it yet, but when it IPO'd, that was worth. He's got a $3 billion stake in that. It might not be worth $3 billion when he's finally able to sell it. Maybe it's only worth $2 billion. Maybe it's worth, but let's say he's got 3 and he's got another $2 billion coming in. Trump's got billions of dollars. He's got plenty of money to take care of things. So no, he's not broke. Trump 24 all the way. His site is back up now. Okay, so if somebody wants to make a donation, the site is back up. Felony with no criminal time. Y'all, okay, so Jacob Ryan, are you saying you disagree with, you don't think that he can get a felony and not get criminal time? Let's face it, I don't know that that's the outcome we're going to get, but that is absolutely one of the outcomes. The outcomes that I've seen are no jail time, 4 years, or the new one I saw was 3 months. I don't know which one it's going to be. I think no jail time, but I don't know. I mean, I didn't think he was going to get convicted, so who's to say? But yeah, he might not get any jail time for this. Trump 2024, okay, that's Dano. What has Biden done for us? He did. Okay. What has Biden done? So you got Trump supporters, you got Biden supporters. And you got to remember, this is an unpopular opinion because this ticks off both sides. But guess what? The economy improved under Trump. The economy improved under Biden. Those are facts. Now, Trump had an issue. Trump had COVID. COVID sent the economy into the toilet. That happened while Trump was in office. Biden's got an issue because we've got this inflation. You want to buy a Happy Meal, it costs $10. But the economy has improved under both. And both have had issues that they've had to deal with. We were supposed to be in a recession right now. We're not. That's because of the administration being able to push it off. We were literally supposed to be in the middle of a recession right now, and we're not. So things are bad, but they are not as bad as they could have been. That doesn't mean that, changes the cost of what you got to pay for a gallon of milk at the grocery store. Doesn't change the fact that some people were financially better under Trump and some people are financially better under Biden. But yeah, both candidates can talk about improvements they made. It's just who feels like they get, who do people feel like they get the bigger benefit from, Trump or Biden? And people are divided on that. Trump isn't a coward. He would take accountability with his chest out. Take accountability for what? All right, so, all right, you got to remember, all right, this isn't to bash anybody, but real talk. The whole reason we're here is because Trump paid somebody off because he didn't want to take accountability for the fact that he was sleeping with her, behind his wife's back. I'm not throwing him under the bus for it, but that's what was going on. He didn't necessarily need to do that. He didn't need to pay it out the way he did. He could have avoided there are a lot of ways that today never happened if he just handled it differently. 2,000 Mules came out way down the road. Yeah, I know some people love 2,000 Mules. I don't think that 2,000 Mules provided much actual evidence. They provided some conjecture. And if you get into the backstory of a lot of things, because 2,000 Mules was a book. For those who don't know, I forget that guy's name, but the guy came out with this book and then converted it into a movie called 2,000 Mules. And in it, he's talking about his evidence for why the 2020 election was stolen. Essentially, what he's talking about are what he calls mules, people who went to mailboxes in the middle of the night with tons of ballots stuffing the boxes. He does have grainy video of people at mailboxes stuffing envelopes in. I haven't seen anything definitive to say these are Biden supporters, these are Trump supporters, these votes count. There's a lot that's missing from that movie. And if I'm going to be really honest, the guy who made it was described as being a profiteer. It's like, oh, he sees that people are in disbelief about the election, and he's using that to make money. I don't know how much of that's true or not, but if the movie had definitive evidence, then the question is, why hasn't anybody used that? And I haven't seen anybody use it. And he's also made retractions in his book. So some people love 2,000 Mules. I'm more like, I haven't seen anything come of it. If I see something come of it, then fine. But until then, to me, it's more fiction than anything because nobody's using the data from it. He just made $6 billion on his joint venture. Okay, so if you're talking about Truth Social, $3 billion of that is his, but he can't sell those shares. He's got shares in that IPO, but he can't sell them yet. You have to wait 6 months, so it'll be a while before he can sell them. Then he'll get his $3 billion or whatever it's worth at the time. Okay, we got some soccer fans, Haaland or Mbappe. I'll leave that to the chat. He will never go to jail. He might not go to jail. I'm not going to say never, not after today. Trump will come out of the pen. Okay. Let me see. Economy did not improve with Biden. K-Man. So I disagree with you, K-Man. You can track the economy. You can literally track what happened to unemployment. And when you look at salaries and costs and unemployment, you can track it. The economy goes. Here's the truth about the economy. If we're talking about the economy and what's going on with the economy, you got to go all the way back to George W. Bush. Because when George W. Bush Jr. was in office, we had a recession. Housing market collapsed. People were being laid off right and left. Economy was in the toilet. Obama came in. Economy started to improve. And you saw this very steady improvement in the economy as we got away from George W. Trump comes in, the economy continues to improve. It's kind of that same trajectory. Goes into the toilet with COVID, comes back, keeps improving. Biden comes in, it's the same trend line. It was just a nice steady line. Everybody was benefiting from getting away from the recession. So the economy has improved under both presidents. It's just some people benefited more under Trump, other people benefited more under Biden. However, we got crazy inflation right now, and Biden's got to own that because that's going to influence some voters. The economy only improved because of coming out from underneath COVID, and people went back to work. The economy was improving before COVID, and the economy resumed improving as we got out from under COVID. So yeah, COVID sent the economy into the toilet, but the economy was getting better before it, and the economy is getting better after it. But I personally, let me see. but I personally feel like the economy hadn't improved. And that's just different people. Okay, Dano doesn't believe. He said K-Man lies. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna let you guys. If you guys want to go back and forth, I'll leave you to it. How's your 401k today under Biden compared with Trump? Actually, it doesn't really change, but that's a kind of a different. That's like a very different. You have to look at individual people and circumstances for that. The economy is doing so well. I just took a trip to Hong Kong. Also, Social Security payments are way up for senior citizens. I know Dano. I know Steve personally. Well, I'll go by. I know Dano personally. I do know that he just took a trip to Hong Kong where he got married. That's kind of a different story. Benford's Law. I don't know Benford's Law. 401ks are way up, just like the stock market. Okay. Free Donald Trump. How do you milk a sheep? Okay. I'm assuming you're I don't know if you're directing that at the American people or if you're directing it at somebody in the chat. You can't use it because you can't get a fair trial in Georgia or New York. Okay. How do you milk a sheep? Yeah, okay. Yep. These guys are just going to go at it in the chat. 401k is not worth unless company matches. So I don't know if if the company's not matching, then I don't think they have. I don't know many companies who offer 401ks unless they're offering matching. Because if they're not offering matching, then why would you put your money in a 401k? You can invest it in something else, and you don't have to deal with those penalties. As long as we can print money, we will never be in a recession. Well, that's actually not the way we get into a recession is because we print too much money. You print a bunch of money, and then the value of the dollar goes down, and that's what leads to the recession. How many times have you been? Okay. I'm not choking. I mean, I know you, Steve. I don't have a problem with that. I just I wasn't expecting you to get into Hong Kong, so that kind of threw me off. Dottam says hi. Welcome, Dottam. Please click the subscribe button. Simultaneous escape, 34 accounts. Yeah, that's the one thing I heard people criticizing Merchant on, and that the 34 counts kind of overrides, is there was criticism about Merchant saying that jurors could kind of pick and choose who they wanted, which counts they wanted to convict Trump on. And they came back with guilty on all 34 counts. So it doesn't appear that the jurors did any picking and choosing. They didn't do a buffet menu. They just went down the row and said, nope, guilty on all counts. That doesn't mean that, that an appeal won't be successful. But it does say that, the jury seemed convinced. Whatever happened, they were convinced that he was guilty of everything. How does it feel to be the best YouTuber ever? That's Mr. Beast. That's Mr. Beast by a mile. Yeah, I can only dream of doing Mr. Beast's numbers. But I do like to know that people like the content. So Josh H., what's the topic? So we're talking about Trump. Trump was found guilty on all 34 counts in the New York Stormy Daniels hush money trial. And we're trying to think about what that means to the 2024 election. Because while Trump can appeal, while Trump might not do any jail time, and if he doesn't do jail time, then he can still run as the Republican nominee, Trump could go to jail. I don't know that he will. I don't know that he won't. But if he does, then that raises some questions about how long he's in jail, what that does for the Republicans and who they nominate. That there are a lot of questions that need to be answered in the next couple of months. Trump's debate with Biden is going to be at the end of June. And then there is a sentencing that's happening in early July. And that is going to have a huge impact on who people vote for. So, yeah, that's the show that we've been talking about. What is this? Guilty on 34 counts by 12 American jurors Okay, it means 408 guilty votes in record time. It's straightforward. Uh, did you or did you not falsify documents? Hang on. To grease palms. Well, to grease. I mean, did he? Well, hang on. You're going down a different path. So it wasn't falsifying documents. Well, okay. No, you're right. It was falsifying documents. Kind of. It's more. You cooked the books. You misrepresented your finances because you took some of the money and you used it to pay off an adult film star who you were sleeping with. Um, and because you were running for president when you did it, that rose to the level of a federal crime. That's the way this is playing out. It's weird, but that is the way it's playing out, and so that's kind of what we're dealing with. Thank you, Democrats, for handing Trump the victory today. I don't know that that's the case. Remember, Trump could go to jail. If Trump goes to jail, then I don't think anybody handed him anything. I think if he goes to jail, I think he loses. If he doesn't go to jail, then I think that this does give him something that he can build on. But we have to see. Let me see. Adam 24. Whoa, just because Mr. Beast has way more subs doesn't mean that he's the best. You're the best. I appreciate it, but yeah, I haven't lost perspective of where I rank versus some of these other guys. Lucas Dremin showed refinery production raised gas prices, never stopped drilling here. Okay, so the whole energy thing. I agree with Trump on energy. I don't really care about the Paris Accord for a couple of reasons. I mean, with the work that I've done on trying to understand climate change, honestly, what I've seen, if climate change is as drastic an issue as it's being portrayed, then if you don't get Russia and North Korea and China to also play well in the sandbox, it doesn't matter what the other countries do. And they're not playing nice in the sandbox, so yeah, it's like you're putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. What's the point? But the other thing is, I mean, how big and there's pollution, which is, yeah, that's an issue, but then there's climate change. And the surface temperature on Earth hasn't risen 2 degrees in the last 100 years. When I look at the news and I look at the weather, we're not setting records for the hottest days in history. Sometimes it's a hot day and they'll say, oh, it hasn't been this hot since 1972, which means it really wasn't that long ago that it was that hot. So I'm not seeing what I would expect to see if climate change was as catastrophic as it's being portrayed. Doesn't mean that it's not detrimental, but it does suggest that maybe it's being overblown. Don't know that it is, but I have questions. No jail, and kind of back to that point, if drilling means that more Americans have jobs and the economy improves, and not drilling means that we get to talk about climate change and potentially not do anything about it, well, I say drill, because I'd rather see strong economy until you convince me that we need to stop drilling because it's detrimental, and I haven't seen that yet. No jail time if you have $6 billion. Are you going to jail? Well, let's think about it. If by that logic, I would say you won't be found guilty of a crime like this, and that didn't hold up. So he could go to jail. I don't know that he will. I don't think that he will. But I have to acknowledge right now, he could go to jail. That may happen. For how long was Davis Klein an elected delegate? I was one for over 6 years, and then the GOP abandoned me. Let me see. Trump is the only choice. That's what about half the voters think that. This is true. Michael Clown did it, not Trump. Well, he made the payment, but let's face it, he didn't just arbitrarily decide to pay off Stormy Daniels. I mean, we have to be honest here. Trump wanted Stormy Daniels to keep quiet, and he cooked the books to make that happen. And that wasn't smart, because if he had handled this differently, there'd be no case. Let's get the likes up. Thank you, one who cares. Click like and subscribe. Yes, click like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. I appreciate that. I don't remember to say it enough. Who do you want to be the next president for USA? Drill baby. That's a good name. Drill baby drill. That's funny. How do you feel about California considered allowing after-birth abortions for 3 days for the mother to decide if she's ready for motherhood? Is that all right? Look, there's some things that are. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I've heard these crazy stories, but I don't think that the I mean, for the first, what is it like through the first trimester? I think through the first trimester you can do it, and you don't really need a reason except that you want to. After that, it starts to get into like medical things, and I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but yeah, like 3 days after, well, 3 days after, that's a life. Nobody argues. You got to remember with these cases, nobody argues that you should be able to terminate a life or not. Everybody argues about when life starts. Like if you said that life began at 4 months, nobody will argue that after 4 months you should be able to terminate. That's never the argument. The argument is always, well, what constitutes life? Is it when the heart's beating? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the moment of conception? It's all this stuff. So I don't ever believe anybody's going to say, oh, there is a life here, and you can decide for up to 3 days whether you want to keep it or not. That goes into a moral space that there's no. Remember, politicians are going to be driving these. There is no way to win that argument. Nobody's going to support you if you try to argue something like that. So I don't believe that that's ever going to happen. I would vote for Putin before I would vote for. Okay, Dano's on his platform. You deserve more subs than Mr. Adam is really pumping it up. I don't think so. I was saying that's why gas prices are up. They never stopped drilling in West Virginia. Well, here's the thing. I mean, gas prices. I learned this kind of through this whole process of just getting more up to speed on issues. The U.S. is the biggest producer of oil in the world right now. We produce more than Saudi Arabia. We produce more than anybody else. Number one. And I think Saudi Arabia cut back, but doesn't matter. We produce more than anybody else. If you look at how much we have on hand, we have 5 years of reserves that are proven that we know we can refine efficiently. We got more reserves that we haven't proven yet, but for all I know, we've got 10 years worth of fuel just currently available, currently drilled. We can pull it up and we can go. So do we need to drill to sustain ourselves? No, we don't need that. Can drilling help the economy? That's different. Can we export more? Can we do things with it? Yeah, I think we can. I think that we can drill, and I think that drilling can help with jobs, but I don't know. I don't know why gas prices fluctuate as much as they do when we've got as much on reserve as we do. Let me see. Chevian, he admitted to that. To be a Trump supporter, you must support Putin. I don't agree with that. Canada has more oil reserves than the U.S., so Trump put tariffs on them. Smart. I don't know how much Canada has on reserve. I mean, Canada's a map. Given the way Canada is shaped, that wouldn't surprise me. It's huge. Who Donald Trump number one? Vote for me, Black America. That's a funny name. Donald Trump number one. I don't know what Donald Trump's vote from Black Americans is going to be. I don't know. I mean, typically about 90% of Black Americans vote Democrat. That's a couple of points here, a couple of points there, one election to the other. But generally, that's it. Okay, good show. See you and good luck. Thank you, Josh. Don't forget to click subscribe. Um, I get the feeling that more than 10% of black people are going to vote for Trump if Trump is available to vote for this time. I don't know what it's going to be, though. I mean, it's going to be 12, 15. I don't think 50% of black people are going to vote for Trump. That's just not going to happen. I did a live stream a couple of days ago and actually did a video about it because there was a woman who came in the chat and she was mad at me because I wasn't just screaming pro Biden points all day long. And basically she said, you're black. You're just supposed to support Democrats. I'm like, don't tell me who to vote for. But in her head, if you're black, you got to vote Democrat. So there's still plenty of people who think that way. I get it. I mean, the Democratic Party was, pushing for civil rights when Barry Goldwater and the Republican Party were against it back in the 60s. And that's what caused the divide that's led to where we are today. The Republican Party never got more than like 15% of the black vote after that. But over time, people are less tied to that than they are to right now and who helps them in their pocket right now. And so we're just going to have to see what happens. Let me see. All we need is 22% of the black vote. I've heard. Here's what I want you to think about, Chevy, because I've heard people say that, and that's not exactly true. But here's what I want to lay out. Okay. If you look at the black population in America, it's concentrated in a couple of places. I mean, it's like 6 states have more than half of the black population in America. I'm doing this from memory, so it's like California, Texas, New York, the big three. Georgia, Philadelphia, and I think it might have been like North Carolina. I don't remember what the 6th one was. But basically, you take those 6 states, that's most of the black population. So let's remember, California. I already know which way California is going to vote. New York, I already know which way they're going to vote. Texas, I'm pretty sure I know which way they're going to vote. Same thing for North Carolina. Now, Georgia, okay, black vote in Georgia, yeah, that's important because Georgia is a swing state. Pennsylvania, yeah, the black vote in Pennsylvania, that's important. But it's not really just the black vote. It's like the vote in Georgia matters. The vote in Pennsylvania matters. If you can get 20,000 people by converting some black votes, great. But whoever, it's like a 20,000 point margin of error there, and whoever gets it wins the state. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the votes, but if you're not in a swing state, I don't think you're going to change your mind in 2024. 44 states consistently were Republican or consistently were Democrat over the last 2 elections, and Trump was in both of the last 2 elections, so I don't see them changing their minds now. Chevy cannot do simple. Okay. I hope everyone here remembers that this was Dano, the best Western. Oh yeah, you're not popping up as the best Western on. Okay, well that's a separate thing. Who's been predicting the blue wave 2024 since Fed. Yeah, Dano has been predicting that Biden is going to win for months. Dano and I do not agree on how close this election is. I think the election is a whole lot closer than he does. We're going to have to see. But it's about 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. I got to put my kid to bed for school tomorrow. Otherwise, she'll stay up all night. Oh, man. You say, okay, I can't let that go. You think Trump will win New York? That's not going to happen, Chevy. Look, New York is about as blue as it gets. There are certain states that are going red. There are certain states that are going blue. New York is one of the states that is going blue. I don't see any series of events that's going to change that. But, on election night, we will know for sure. Good show. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lucas Drennan. This was a good one. I knew this was going to be a fun one. I knew there were going to be a lot of comments. I knew people were going to be going at each other in the comments. I love you, Gene, but I know politics you're good people, but you do not know the research needed to understand the outcomes of elections. I do. I don't believe you, Dano. I think that people are pretty reliable. I think that if I look at people's behavior, I can get a pretty good sense for what they're going to do. And when I look at past behavior, 44 states, yeah, I think that is a good predictor of what they're going to do this time. I could be wrong, but until I see it on election night, 44 states have voted consistently red or consistently blue for the last two elections, and I don't believe they're going to change now. 6 states do have the possibility to change, and those are going to be the states that determine who the president is, so we're going to have to see. And Biden's going to be the Democratic nominee, and maybe Trump will be the Republican nominee, but that's what we're going to have to see. Anyway, that's the show. Hit like and subscribe, click the notification bell. I will be publishing more content and encouraging comments from both sides. I generally don't discourage people from chiming in. I try to be as even and fair as possible, but I'm only human, so maybe I make a couple of missteps. I try to minimize them. You guys have a good night.